Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the next episode in our installment of the Stigma Room Unlocked. As usual, we're going to bring you guys a lot of honesty, some vulnerability, but again, this whole thing is about providing insight into the minds of males and females in a way where we can relate to each other. So, in our last episode, we focused on a lot of things. Virginia was a wonderful guest. We're very appreciative to her for being on. And she really presented things to us from a single woman's perspective. Someone currently still in the dating scene, figuring out different relationships based on past traumas and things like that. Very informative. A lot of good information. We appreciate her for that. But today, we're going to keep it along those same lines with some additional gems that everybody's going to get into and some new fresh perspectives that we're going to go get. And to help us do that today, we have Megan Getzinger with us. Everybody give her a round of applause. But we would like to welcome her as our esteemed guest for today. So we'll be looking forward to getting her perspectives and her insights as well from the perspective of a married woman with children and responsibilities. We're looking forward to exploring what she has in store for us today, along with my guys. Shout out to Sion, Marcus. We got Floydie in the wings.
For sure.
And again, we always want to show the utmost and appreciation and respect for Top, really taking care of us. We appreciate you, brother. So we're going to keep this thing riding. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Marcus. He's going to go ahead and get us started, ladies and gentlemen. But welcome to episode 3 of the Stigma Room Unlocked.
All right, let's unlock this thing. As we said here, we told y'all that the title is Battle of the Sexes, right? So we're not coming here, as we said before, we're not fighting on this one, but we want to talk seriously about the things that we see. And the reason why we call it Battle of the Sexes, because we see the people fighting about it. So we come here, Battle of the Sexes, helping people to come to a room, into a place, a safe place to talk about the issues that we're dealing with, right? Before we have a problem. So let's get to it. Men versus women, but we're going to do it respectfully. Doing it respectfully, we're going to start with the ladies first. So, Megan, we got a few topics here. We just want to get your perspective on it, things that
Sir,
you see,
yes.
things that you may have had trouble with, and we just going to dig right into it.
Let's
See how
get
you
it.
feel.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
So, look, we talk about this first one here, right? When we're talking about men understanding women, right? So, a lot of women will say, man, my past traumas got me messed up. Some of those things like past boyfriends, childhood dramas, daddy issues. What's your take on that?
To be honest, I mean, sure, my trauma, my childhood trauma, past boyfriends, those experiences shaped who I am and how I operate in the world, how I operate as a wife, how I operated as someone who was dating, right? But doesn't the same go for you and you and you, right? We are a product of our environment. So yes, I think that our traumas shape us, and we can say, hey, that boyfriend messed me up. The What's important as a couple, because at that point we've decided to be a team, is to recognize them and not let them affect our future. Realize that we might be triggered and not let that shape, right? I might be talking to you or having an argument with my husband, and if I bring my past experiences into it, I'm not even talking about the thing between he and I'm triggered. So then I'm confrontational, I'm defensive, and it has nothing to do with him. So what's been important for me is to recognize that those traumas have shaped the way I feel about certain things, topics, and when they come up, recognizing, oh, I'm triggered. That's on me. That's not on him. And then making sure that our conversation is about us.
Yeah, that's good. So let me ask you this though, right? Because now sometimes some of us we can speak from a place of maturity, right? So let's take it back to the early 20s and the teen years. Like,
Wow.
how do you think,
It wasn't that long
if you
ago.
could tell yourself any advice, and maybe this is part of, maybe you gave this answer already, but how would you speak to your partner if you could in your early 20s to not have made those mistakes? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It Doesn't.
Okay.
Give me an example.
So if you, let's say you get ready to lash out,
yeah,
but you may not
now,
understand. Yeah.
right now. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Back
Back in
then.
my okay.
Back then. And you, who you are today, is speaking to yourself in the early 20s. What would you tell yourself?
I understand. I would tell myself to shut my mouth and
Mm,
to slow down. Right? Not everything needs to be said. Even things that you're feeling, that it may not be how you actually feel, right? So it's important to slow down, pump the brakes, even if even if it means stepping away or taking a break from the conversation, which sometimes could feel disrespectful, or I would view it as disrespectful, like I'm not having this conversation, I'm walking away. Now you shouldn't talk like that, but right, but the point is, I used to view that like taking a break. It's like you don't care enough to do this with me, right?
right.
So I would talk to my younger self and say, slow down, watch your mouth, because words can be like a knife, right? Once it's out there, you can't take it back. So you can really hurt someone's feelings and then be like, actually, I didn't mean that. I wasn't talking to you. I was speaking on something that triggered me and made me feel some type of way.
Right. I can understand that because you know what? Like for me, I came from a background where I seen everybody fight in my household. So I thought that communication was normal. Like seeing people work issues out in a like
Yes.
a sensible sense was like taboo.
Yeah.
So for me, this is how it affected me. And that when we're talking about trauma, I would rather not even have the conversation if I feel like it's get ready to go to a fight.
Mm.
Because of how it made you feel when you were younger and you saw that?
Not necessarily how it made me feel completely, but I just seen people not get anything done from an argument.
Mm.
Like I almost got a saying that I live by, like nobody hears the person who yells. So when you
Mm,
speaking from that highly emotional state, all you're trying to do is hear me. This is what I want.
mm,
This is what I need you to understand.
mm-hmm,
Like you're no longer listening at that point.
mm-hmm.
So now when you're yelling at somebody else, it's like now 9 out of 10 people are going to have a reaction of being on defense. So now nobody's listening. Everybody
Totally
just want to
agree
be
with
like,
you.
just hear what I'm saying, hear what I'm saying, hear what I'm saying. And at
Totally
that
agree with
point,
you.
nothing gets done. But then it was something that I had to realize walking away from the argument, not hearing it is also counterproductive, right? Because it make a person feel like you said, you don't care. But what I'm trying to do in that moment is not argue.
Got you.
So it was a balance that I had to learn, especially from my earlier years. Like I had to learn, like, and even still though, sometimes like, especially when you have the age old argument of logic over emotions. It's like, look, you speaking from a spot that's not even logical right now. So it's like, I
Right.
don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even think you know what you're talking about. Let's walk away for a second, come back, and let's try to figure this thing out. So it was like that was a real learning lesson that I had to deal with in my early years. I don't know about you fellas. What you fellas think about that?
I'm just trying to find myself in the confines of the question. So you're asking what is something that I would tell myself then based on what I know now.
Yeah.
So you're saying in my
Especially when it comes to past traumas and dealing with relationships specifically. That's what we're talking
Yeah, how you respond with conflict and stuff, right?
about.
um
Yeah. But see, you pretty peaceable.
no,
I was gonna
but
say we're
so
talking to the unicorn.
nope. See, here
Wait,
we go.
give him a break. Hey, go ahead, Sion.
So
I'm
so
gonna
so
hush
here's
for a
so here's
second.
so here. Check this out. So check this out. So I'm trying to just reevaluate myself from where I am now with like conflict resolution and my response to it,
Mhm.
as opposed to where I was, let's say, 10 years ago. Um, I think I'm probably around the same as I was then.
That's
But I
interesting.
but I but I would tell my younger self is to evaluate the bigger picture of certain situations better. Because I didn't do that. Sometimes when you're in a marriage and your wife says something, you're reacting just to what she's saying. Babe, you didn't do this again. And now you're like, well, yes, I did, or I didn't have time to do it when you're in your 20s. Now, my thought process is this. That thing that you're talking about is not even that important to you. So now my thinking is, hey, self, what else is going on? So I'm considering everything. Did she already tell me earlier this week about a conversation she had with her friend didn't go well? Is she experiencing a special set of circumstances for this time of the month? What? What? But I'm saying I have to. But I have to understand that she's angry.
Yeah.
She's angry. But I evaluate everything first before I respond. Now, do I mess up? Absolutely. I've went completely bonkers over something that I know she didn't care about, but she brought it to me like it was a big deal. And then guess what I had to do later? I had to come crawling back. I had to apologize. I had to say, you know what, babe? What you said wasn't even about me. And I'm sorry that I reacted as if it was. Now, that's kind of unfair because you can say what you want, but I gotta think it through.
That is highly evolved, James.
I appreciate that you probably have something else going on because to my knowledge, I didn't do anything. But it's the thought process in that moment and the mindset to take yourself out of it and say, you know what? Tag, I forgot. She had a bad day at work. So, babe, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your bad day because I know it's not about the pork skins I left on the stove. I know it's not about that. I know it's not about that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm not there, James.
I don't know that a lot of
yeah, I'm
husbands
not there.
or wives
Yeah.
are there.
I would say my biggest thing that I would tell myself is don't be defensive.
Mm.
My automatic response when there was a conflict, I used to get defensive and I used to shut down. And nothing really gets accomplished when one person's not engaged in the conversation. So I would tell myself, really pay attention to what she's saying because it's not about that individual problem she brought up. It's the whole concept.
Yeah.
It's like, are you really hearing what I'm saying? And kind of have to read between those lines. So I used to get defensive off of just this one situation, but it's bigger than that. She's like, no, I've been telling you other things. This is just what's reared its head. Yeah, yeah. So that's when we get to argue. That's when we had conflicts. Is when things would build up. It wouldn't just be one thing. It would just be a combination of things, like you said.
Okay.
So defensive. I tell Sion, don't get defensive.
So it's funny. It sounds like everybody here, no matter what the problem is, it sounds like we can all agree on at least accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's like, and that takes a while, and it takes like it's humility too, because you got to look in the mirror and be like, hey, like a lot of us, like unless you grew up in the proper circumstances, that Brady Bunch style family, you can be like, hey, I'm a little messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little messed up. I bring some baggage, even though we probably don't think we do. But it's like, and that's one of those things with like love and vulnerability. It's like, hey, like, yeah, baby, I'm messed up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think it's tough. I was thinking about relationships too.
And
It's like
scary.
you get
Yes.
into a relationship and it's not until that other person brings something out of you, that's when you have to address your past. Like if you're not in a relationship, how are you going to be able to meet those demons? You're not going to
Yes.
be able to. So it's like when you meet that rough spot, now the person who's watching you like, why are you turning up on me right now? Like we need to unpack
Mm-hmm.
that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it's accountability. It's like we may not attack it during this argument, but we're gonna come back to that because I didn't like the way you made me feel,
Right.
and we can address it better when we're both calm.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Megan. I'm gonna give you this one. All right. In general, in general, how do you think men display love to the woman? Display love to the woman that they love.
I think it's so individual. I think that's a hard question to answer. I know how my husband shows love to me. There's a book It's called The Five Love Languages, and it talks about all of the different ways that we receive and we give love.
I think
right?
every woman has read this book.
I begged my husband to read it. Okay, fine, don't read it. Just take the test. Just take the test, right? Then I'm taking the test for him, pretending I'm him and answering the questions. So, but in reading that book, what I realized was that each of us, because we're a product of our environment and how we grew up and all of those things, we receive love differently than other and give different than our spouse oftentimes, right? So I know that my husband, when he says, "Hey, I want to watch a movie, and I want to, snuggle on the sofa," he is showing love to me. I hate watching
Does Adam
movies.
use the word snuggle? Just curious.
I
Just
might have
curious.
added that in.
Yeah,
No,
Jay.
he uses snuggle.
He doesn't look like he says snuggle.
He
I
is
know what I wanna
very
say.
confident in his masculinity.
Yeah, I get it, but he doesn't say Megan, let's snuggle.
Okay, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway,
Just saying. Moving on.
We good.
Just wanted to hold him down.
There are
Go ahead.
times when we may use a word or two.
I say snuggle. I have no problems.
Yeah.
I'd like, can we cuddle? Can we cuddle while we watch a
what?
movie?
Maybe he says cuddle. So I know he's showing love to me.
Counterproductive.
I hate sitting down to watch a movie. I'm going to fall asleep on it, right? But because I know he's trying to show me love and he feels loved, he feels best when I receive that, I'm gonna watch a movie, right? I'm gonna sit on the sofa and watch a movie I don't want to watch. I'm gonna fall asleep on a movie. Are you sleeping? I'm awake. This is great, right? Right. So now for me, but we had issues when, for me, I feel most loved. Acts of service is one of the things, which is do something that is a burden for me and take it off my plate. I feel most loved when you take something that I don't want to do and you do it for me. Example, if I'm in a bad place, like emotionally, and I just need a break, the laundry will pile up and pile up and pile up. It'll all be clean, but I hate folding laundry. And this sounds ridiculous, but if Adam is like, "Hey, baby, I'm gonna fold the laundry for you," uh, you, what do you want? I'm singing Jill Scott. But what do you want? What do you?
Do you want it on your collard greens?
Listen, I feel so loved when he folds laundry, which sounds ridiculous.
No,
right?
No,
it
it sounds
But-
ridiculous. No,
It
it
only
doesn't.
sounds ridiculous to single people.
Wow, that's perspective.
Yeah,
Really?
for sure.
Absolutely.
Only to single people?
Well, it
Only
does
the-
not sound ridiculous.
I mean, it don't to me, but I'm just wondering if that's just us or if that's a single and married thing. Is it?
I think it's probably a married thing.
Well, how would people single gauge that?
They wouldn't unless they had like a all right. Somebody else was
Yeah, they
washing their
wouldn't- yeah, they
clothes. Yeah,
wouldn't.
you're right.
Yeah, they wouldn't have that experience.
Yeah. So I think that it's so important for couples to figure out and also accept that now Adam doesn't fold laundry all the time. If he does it, I mean, it's a great. I mean, it's wonderful, and it makes me feel.
Adam, listen.
Oh, he knows.
Adam.
Oh, he
I'll
knows.
help you out, bro.
He knows. No, he knows. But him, I have to. I mean, there's this compromise where I'm not always going to get the things that fill my cup because those aren't his natural inclinations. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love me because he's giving me. I know if I say, "Hey, baby, I got tickets to go see a movie, and I want to spend time. I got a babysitter. Let's go get something to eat, and let's go on a date." He feels very well taken care of, right? So it's this like give and take where I'm going to give him what he needs to feel most loved, and I need to accept what he's giving me and recognize that's love. Now we can still talk about like, I need you to do this, right? But that's in a married relationship where you're just in the day-to-day stuff. That to me is kind of how we've worked out so far, and we're still working on it. We've been married for 12 and a half years.
Right. So
Y'all 12? Man,
Yeah,
it's a long time.
It feels like 12 seconds sometimes, and then